And joining us now to discuss these developments is Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Jamil, thank you for joining us. Good to see you again. Do these airstrikes mark a return to war, or do they appear to be a limited operation with the goal of just putting pressure on Hamas?
Well, Mugo, we'll see. It's hard to know right now because we don't know how long they're going to go on for. But certainly an immediate concern is to put pressure on Hamas. There are still 59 approximately hostages remaining in the Gaza Strip of the 250 that were originally kidnapped. About half of those were expected to not still be alive, unfortunately. So about 30 living hostages that we're talking about. And now Hamas, for their part, has said, look, we'll give you one American Israeli hostage and 4 bodies. They agreed to that last Friday. So there is some negotiation going on, but not nearly enough for what the Israelis want and expect to get to a further stage in these negotiations and to apparently continue the ceasefire.
Yeah, and on the backdrop now, we're talking 400 people, at least according to the Hamas Health Ministry, who have died from the airstrike. So we're talking more lives killed here. But many in Israel are wondering what the shattered ceasefire will mean for the dozens of hostages you mentioned there still being held. Is there any further path to negotiations at this point?
Well, look, at the end of the day, what's got to happen is they've got to agree to a process like the one they had before, where Hamas was releasing a number of hostages, the Israelis releasing, 15, 20x that number of Palestinian prisoners in exchange. We're talking, I think we saw about 30 releases in the last few weeks, and about 1,000 Palestinian prisoners released from the Israeli side. So that negotiation's got to happen. Because Hamas has been stalling for a little while, I think the Israelis felt like, look, we've got to re-up the pressure. And the question is this a one-off thing, or will this take a longer time? And the real question is, when does Hamas come back to the table? And can you really destroy Hamas? Because as you see at each of these hostage releases, there's tons of fighters still standing around with weapons, ready to go to war. And that's, I think, the real challenge for Israel is they see a continued buildup with Hamas even after these airstrikes.
Yeah, and we know the Arab world, they're condemning Israel. We also heard from the UN earlier, but they're condemning Israel's escalation, while Hamas is blaming the United States for providing unconditional military support to Israel. What could the United States do at this point to help resolve the conflict?
Well, look, Mugo, at the end of the day, what we've got to see is Hamas has got to put down its weapons and not continue the kind of tactics it's engaged in. If you think about what happened on October 7th, it was the equivalent on a population-adjusted basis of a dozen 9/11 attacks, right? And you think about what the U.S. did after 9/11. We went to war for 20 years, went around the globe, and took out terrorists, Al-Qaeda and ISIS, to prevent attack on the homeland. So it's not surprising the Israelis are continuing to fight this conflict as they see Hamas. And, mind you, they still have, 60 Israeli hostages, probably 30 or so of them alive, some of them American, that need to come back as well. And so it's no surprise this war is continuing. Hamas is unwilling to put its weapons down until that can happen or it's destroyed. I think you'll see this conflict at some level continue.
Wow. We'll wait and see. There's some progress on that. Jamil Jaffer with the National Security Institute, thank you so much for joining us on the stream today.